To the show, Jack Chow of East to West with G&E TV. With the airplane shut down, the talks are continuing to be more and more mystifying to the situation. I'm really trying to pick up the right word to describe the situation. It is very, very, very much so. Mystifying probably is the word. To get to the mystifying picture, we tried several times to discuss the situation, discuss the incident, the phenomenon with my guests on the show. Today, I turn myself to Bill Young. Mr. Bill Young is the expert of anything that flies.
Not quite that good, but
yeah, including birds. Okay, Mr. Bill Young is my good friend. He has been an expert of Boeing Company,
Douglas Aircraft.
Douglas Aircraft for quite some time, a big part of his life. And as a matter of fact, he knows not only the technical part, the engineering part, but also the management part, right? So
True.
With a great man for the right subject. So, well, of course, I don't think that you know the answer, but you know the answer to my questions that seem to be pointing at different areas.
Yes.
Right. First, my question is, to an expert like yourself, how do you describe the defense of the airplane? Once it's airborne, is it still defendable or still, defenseless?
It's defenseless.
Totally defenseless?
Totally. There's nothing on a commercial aircraft that would cause a missile to miss or a fighter to not be able to find it.
So it's totally vulnerable.
Correct. Now, military aircraft have stuff that will cause a missile to miss, and they can defend themselves. Well, commercial aircraft cannot.
I see.
It's against the law to put guns on commercial aircraft. So
and
they don't have.
How about Airplane One, the presidential flight?
They fly with a swarm of fighters around them all the time.
With fighters around them?
Yes.
All right.
So they've got quite a bit of defense.
They can mislead the missiles?
Any military aircraft's got transmitters on board that can cause the missile to mistrack where it thinks something is.
I see.
But the commercial aircraft cannot.
For commercial aircraft, if something approaching to it, like a missile, is there any way to record it?
There is.
Prior to impact.
The two black boxes on an aircraft. One records the voice in the cockpit and any radio information coming in. The other one is just flight data, navigation data, basically.
At what kind of altitude? What kind of speed?
You have speed, altitude.
Doing what? Towards what directions?
You have engine RPM and stuff like that.
I see.
So you know what the engines are doing. You know what everything else is doing. But you don't have to be able to see the missile and do something. He can turn quickly, but he can't turn anything like a military aircraft.
I see.
And remember, he's got to worry about his safety of his passengers too, which means the turn can't be real sharp, because the people are not belted in tight. Because in a fighter or aircraft, pilots belted in so tight you wouldn't even believe it.
I see.
He can't move.
So in the if we recall many years ago when Russians shut down the
007.
007
Korean bird.
of Uranian
Korean.
Ukraine? No,
Korean.
Korean, yes, Korean. It says that there was communication before the shooting, before the actual impact, between the fighter jets and the airplane. So this kind of communication would probably tell who did it and why they do it.
It might. The communication you're talking about is there are a number of what are called emergency frequencies. The fighters use to talk to the commercial aircraft, and the commercial aircraft can talk back to the fighter.
I see.
The 121.5 is the commercial frequency. 143.0 is the military frequency. It's exactly one multiple, so they can hear each other because of the harmonics of the radios.
If it did happen, the black boxes will pick it up.
Oh yes, black boxes. I mean, it's loud enough you'll hear it on the recording.
The black boxes has been recovered, yet the data had not been read, right? How long does it normally take the people to read the data?
It can take up to a week.
A week?
Because of the length of time it's recorded.
I see.
However, if the recording mechanism is damaged, then getting the data is almost impossible.
But they say a black box is almost
intact.
Intact, yes.
Which means that the recording mechanism should be fine. The only thing I think could damage a radio or recording would be a big magnet, and there weren't any big magnets around it.
I see. All right. Okay. Now, it is very confusing. Lots of fingers are pointing at different directions, but the majority of the fingers are pointing to Russia. Do you think Russia might have done it? Just on wild guess.
I don't know whether Russia did it or not. However, the missile that shot the plane down was Russian, so it had to either have Russian.
The BUK, the BUK.
Yeah, the missile. They've got to have Russian teach people how to use that system, or the Russians did it themselves. Now, why is a good question. Was there somebody or something on that airplane that didn't want to get to Kuala Lumpur?
Say it again. Somebody or something.
Something on that airplane that they didn't want to
somebody didn't want to get to Kuala Lumpur.
Right.
Well.
And we don't know that.
That sounds very scary.
Can be.
Very scary. So what could be that, or what could be a rough guess about the nature of that?
That's what I've been digging my head. I can't figure out anything. And you've got a lot of freight on that airplane, because that was a big airplane. Now they haven't talked about recovering any freight. They're probably all burned. But they've recovered a bunch of bodies and stuff like that. So they've got at least that data.
All right.
The bodies have been taken, I think, back to Holland. And I'm sure there are forensics there.
All right.
And the Europeans are good at forensics. So.
I see. All right. Good. Anyway, to go to the technical part, though, for a flight flying that kind of altitude at a speed that high, 650 miles per hour or something like that.
550.
Or 550, to have that shut down, what kind of a technical challenge?
Well, you've got to be able to track it, number one, which means you've got to have a pretty good radar. And it's got to have a very small beam, so your accuracy is, because normally a beam is about very wide, so when it gets up there, it's mile wide. And you can't hit anything at that. You've got to get a much smaller beam, say a 1 degree beam, which will give you 1,000 feet or better.
Beam means the
width of the radar beam.
The width of the radar beam. So you're saying that the beam to remain the same width?
It doesn't remain the same. It always spreads out.
Oh, I see.
But so you got to start it very, very narrow.
I see.
And
very high tech, though.
Oh, very, very high tech.
All right.
And the type of radar, that's got to be a fire control radar, not commercial search radar.
Okay, of course. Yeah.
Got to be a fire control radar. We know the missile was a Russian SAM 17, not 17, 7, because that's already in the papers.
The Russian SAM or the BUK, are they the same?
That's a good question. Did the Russians supply the missiles to the Ukrainian government or to the Ukrainian rebels? I do not know that answer.
Okay. All right. Let's take a short moment now. When we come back, we'll continue.